last. All right. Looks like we're going to be working here.
I can see that too. It says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Oh, sweet. Cool, man.
All right.
All right. Bear with me just a second.
This is my first live YouTube cast.
Hey,
so
all right.
yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome, man. All right. So let me.
I got an issue with it last.
Hold on a second. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring us up. Oops. And I want to bear with me just a sec. You can still hear me, right, Jason?
I can hear you, yes, sir.
Cool. And I'm going to. All right. Sweet. So we shall see. We got one person watching now. That's cool. All right. Welcome aboard, everybody. So it's a Friday afternoon for Jason and a Friday early evening for me here on YouTube. And I've known Jason for a while, and I've wanted to interview him, or at least have a collaboration, if you will, folks, on his channel. His take on financial planning, I think it'd be interesting. And Fridays are kind of a tough time because most people are not watching YouTube, especially on a beautiful day. But I thought it'd be fun. We got 9 people on there now. Good. So hopefully y'all can hear me. And Jason Proctor, Proctor, joins us from San Diego. Just got off where you just, So so Ernest says it's okay to be white guys. Okay. Well, thanks for saying that, because I
shot across the bow, man. 5 minutes in. So not white, but okay. So.
It's okay to be Pablo, it's my dog, or it's okay to be what else is it okay to be? It's okay to be green, like Kermit used to say. Oh boy. But anyway, All right. Well, I appreciate you giving us our first comment, Ernest. That helps. But anyway, so Jason, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. Tell us a little about Jason Proctor, and we'll just dive into stuff if you would.
Well, like you, I'm a certified financial planner. Just probably want to let the audience know that you and I used to work together, but other than that, that's the only affiliation we have. So I kind of branched out on my own starting 3 years ago. I work as a consultant financial planner for a number of different firms, thinking about starting my own company. I have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy, a couple of other, I'm a partial owner, a couple of other small businesses, and was kind of hoping to talk about, state of the economy today, where I think things are going, unemployment, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, that's, so Jason's a man of many talents. He does financial planning consulting while he is the owner of the Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Yep, the Gracie Humaita La Mesa Academy.
All right, gotcha. And that's in San Diego?
That is, well, it's in La Mesa. It's just outside of San Diego. In fact, it's right where they had all the rioting here in San Diego, and the 2 banks were burned, and all. That's maybe a mile and a half from my business.
Yikes! Did your business get affected by that?
It didn't get affected by it. I was really. It's kind of weird. We have this internal Facebook group for my academy, and there were people posting on it that were very, very worried about what was going on. And I got a lot of personal messages from people, and I even offered to let people stay at my house. But I guess what a lot of people wouldn't understand if you're not from here is that La Mesa probably has the highest concentration of gun ownership in all of Southern California. 70% of the members of my academy are former military or law enforcement. So it's the wrong group of people to mess with.
Gotcha.
And they were all, I was really very pleased at how the entire community around our Jiu-Jitsu Academy kind of came together and was offering to help out anyone that lived near there. Because we had people that lived within a half a mile, or a quarter mile of all that disturbance who were very, very frightened. Luckily, that only lasted for one night. I know the media made it seem like that there was rioting and burning going on forever and ever. It lasted for one night, and after that, it was completely peaceful.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I was reading something just today, and they're saying, the media is so freaking corrupt. They're trying to create problems that don't really exist. I mean, what I mean by that is we don't have a civil war. We have we have maybe 2 million, rabble rousers in terms of the Antifa people and the rioters and looters. But
2 million, I think, would be a vast overstatement of how many there are.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah. They were saying, this guy was saying probably 2 million protesters, of which a number of them are rabble rousers. Let me put it like that. And you're sitting there thinking, and the protesters, I got no problem with. No one has a problem with protesters, for heaven's sake. It's the rabble rousers that we have a problem with. So let's just say a 50,000 rabble rousers, they're not, you got a country of 330 million people, man. I mean,
Yeah.
the idea that we're in some kind of civil war and we're about to take arms, it's silly. And yet it's what the media loves, like you just said, because they
Right.
like to create that tension.
They
And
like to
I
create the
fall for it
tension.
too. Go
They
ahead.
like to create the tension. And I think that the further away we get from large social changes, the more we realize, or the more we don't realize that none of these were very clean changes. They were very dirty. The civil rights era was violent. This is how social change happens.
And
You can't protest in a way, and no one likes burned buildings. I was certainly terrified that my business was going to get burned, but you and I might have very different perspectives. I grew up in the South, in the South, in a small town. I have friends who were on this police force, but it was not a very nice police force. I have friends that are still on the police force, and I know they're going to be angry for me saying this, but it was not nice. I do know people that were unfairly targeted for no reason whatsoever. And I do very much sympathize with the protesters out there, and I want to see change. It's not an accident that between 1,000 and 1,500 people a year here are killed by the police. And I used to live in France, and maybe 30 people a year are killed by the police there in France. And yet they have a population of 80 million people. They're extremely racist, and they have two groups of people they hate there. Both the North African immigrants and the Sub-Saharan African immigrants. They don't like either one of them.
yeah.
And yet they have far fewer deadly encounters with police. I think we need to look at why we are such a violent society. This is what concerns me more than anything else, is why we're such a violent society and why we accept an authoritarian state the way we do.
Well, are we a violent society? See, I challenge that premise, because if you take away the inner cities, we're not violent at all. There's just not.
Well, they're part of our society. Just because they're not it. I mean, I'm a country boy. I'm not from the inner cities.
What is causing the violence in the inner cities? And my claim is a freaking drug war, man. Well, lack of dads first.
No, I would completely agree with you on that. The drug war, and we're way off topic, by the way, but the drug war really caused the militarization of the police. Our entire approach to that was wrong, but it also made us fall in love with the authority of the state. And I think that is the most dangerous thing. Both the right and the left love authoritarian power.
I could not agree more. You're talking on my alley. I
thought we would disagree about everything, Josh. Seriously.
Nah.
Yeah. No.
I couldn't agree more. The militarization of the police is bad. I don't think. Look, you don't have to be a left wing commie or a right wing, whatever there's on the right to say that. But you can't have. I just did a video just yesterday on that, or today, is that the militarization where the cops are dressing up for war amongst their own civilians. That's bad, man.
My hometown had a gyrocopter to catch speeders. It's a town of 6,000 people. And I had a gyrocopter to catch speeders and an APC at one point that they were forced to sell.
Yeah, I'm like, that's.
And it was financed through civil asset forfeiture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought we're supposed to be in disagreement, because civil asset forfeiture is a freaking scam too, man.
No, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. Where I'm from in Texas, there are tens of millions of dollars seized from people every year in the state of Texas, and very few of them are ever charged with a crime.
No, it's
and it's
crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. But this is what I want to impress on people, is that we don't listen to polite protesters. We just don't. I don't like the agitators. I specifically really don't like the violence against people, against property. It doesn't offend me as much as against people, for sure. But the reality is you can protest politely all you want. That's just how you get ignored. And that's basically as far as I think I should foray into politics before I start to get really radical.
I respect your opinion on that. And I think you said something that's actually quite relevant, is that social change doesn't happen quietly under the cover of darkness. It is rough. It is rough around the edges. It's going to offend people. Some people, unfortunately, will bear the brunt of that. But generally speaking, if you want to have change, it's got to be, I don't want to say through the barrel of a gun, but it's got to be through people, yelling essentially at some point.
It does. Well, people need to be convinced by the weight of evidence. They have to see and understand other people's suffering to really be convinced themselves.
Man, I could not agree more. I tell you, we'll go back. I don't even want to go down there.
The great thing about social change, this is the great thing about social change, is that no social change is going to happen unless the majority of people out there decide to be more moral and better people. Yeah. And they will. This is America. No matter how long it takes to bend that arc towards justice, it will bend, because the weight of our convictions and the weight of our commitment to freedom for everyone is too heavy, man. It will bend that arc, and this country will improve for everybody. And I think that people lose sight of that we don't always get things right.
Yeah.
We try and we improve as time goes on.
No, you're good. Yeah, man. I love it. That's optimistic. And sometimes we need a little bit. I know I do. I can fall in the depths of freaking, it really does. This, Michaela says it really sucks those drug out of their car and beat by an angry mob. It does, without question.
No, and there's no condoning that whatsoever. No condoning that whatsoever.
It's just, man, but there's something fundamental that is we don't want to get let's pause on that. I appreciate that. The military, at the end of the day, just real quick, the freaking no knock crap, because of someone narking on you just because they don't like you, that's what scares me. That's the whole thing with Breonna Taylor.
And that can happen to anyone. Like
it does happen to anybody. It happens to whites, it happens to blacks, and yet no one says anything until, like you said, people get freaking fired up about it. And that's the thing that's wrong. It's like when people are rightly, just wrongly taken, no one says anything until it's frustrating, man.
Yeah, until it's too late. It's I could go on and on and on about cases that I've read about with these no-knock raids. Even cases where police officers have been killed in a no-knock raid with someone who owned a legal firearm.
Yeah, right.
And the homeowner went to prison because of that. When it all happens in an instant, in a second. The homeowner has no idea who's breaking into his house. He just draws and fires, and he's the guy that ends up going to prison.
But he was just minding his own business. And the issue is based on who are you relying on to give you that evidence? All right. So Jason, you got your jiu-jitsu business. You own some rental real estate. You like to surf. How'd you I'm just curious. You're from what, West Texas, mid Texas?
I'm actually from the Houston area. Like I grew up in a place called Tomball, Texas.
How'd you end up learning how to surf? I mean, you moved to California, and I mean.
No, I actually learned to surf in Texas. My father, so I was adopted. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I just found out who my birth parents were a year and a half ago.
What?
Yeah, I took a DNA test and I matched with. By the way, if you haven't taken a DNA test, let me tell you, you may want to reconsider it. Mine was half horror show and half awesome. And a lot of people would not have been able to handle what I learned with a sense of humor. Like I'm really from my birth father's side of the family, like I said, has major issues. I'm talking hillbilly, meth addicts, Kentucky, Southern Ohio issues, right? Which is not something that I expected at all.
That's your birth father?
Yeah, my birth father's side of the family. And I've met two half sisters.
All right, gotcha.
Yeah, I've met two half sisters from that side, and they're wonderful people. They really are. But investigating the family, like I literally made calls to family members to ask about the people I'm related to, and I arranged it by the fewest number of felony convictions. Those are the people I called first. So this was not what I was expecting. Anyway. So I was raised by
mom. Was she from that neck of the woods?
She was adopted too from Korea. Oh. And she was very, very young when I was born, gave me up for adoption and has gone on to have a great life. She's fine. She lives here in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Nobody actually knows on her side of the family that I exist, so I'm probably just going to stop talking about it right there.
But you have spoken to her.
I have spoken to her. Yeah. I have spoken to her.
And how now your real parents, the real parents who raised you, your mom and dad, are they still around?
Yeah, actually, my dad's in the hospital right now. He just he's accident prone. Last year he got in an ATV wreck, and this year he fell down the stairs. So, but this is literally like a yearly thing. He's in the hospital. But yeah, both my parents that raised me, my real parents, they're still around. They're not married anymore.
How they feel about you getting to know your birth parents? You know what I'm saying?
That is something that they never believed was possible.
Yeah. Just
because of the circumstances of my adoption. Like I remember I read my adoption records when I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, you were adopted back then?
Oh, no, my parents are white.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, it's perfectly obvious that I was adopted.
Okay, got it. So,
Yeah.
so you knew, you just didn't know who the birth. Okay, got
Right.
it.
Well, I know my adoption records, they don't say who the birth parents are. It's all completely confidential.
Right,
But
right.
there were some things that were just obviously just lies in there that were not true.
Yeah.
Like dumb things. If you didn't know any history, you would believe this. But if you went to college and took a history course, you wouldn't. Like they
Yeah.
said that my great grandmother was a bookkeeper for the Khan Dynasty. I'm like, wow, she must be 700 years old. I don't. But, so I mean, it was just somebody made something up and put it in there because they didn't know, and it was just. I mean, it was actually kind of funny in today's context, but so I spent the $100 on a 23andMe test and $100 on an ancestry test, and I got really good at tracking down who people are.
So how did you? All right, so there's a reason I'm asking this. I'm
Yes.
interested in it, but how? All right, so you did your test.
Yeah.
And you said, oh, you might be related to this person. That I get it. So how did you reach out to him on Facebook or something like that? Or
no? So not a lot happened. I matched with somebody on my Korean side.
Okay.
Which we shared like 5% of our DNA, and he literally couldn't help me out very much because Koreans have this whole shame culture thing where they're not going to talk about anything that's embarrassing, and so he couldn't even tell me about his own father's side. He didn't understand that I knew that we were related through a female relative just because we shared DNA on the X chromosome.
Okay.
And I have a background in archaeology too. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I have plenty of insight and knowledge on DNAs. And so I didn't say anything. I didn't push. I didn't want him to think I'm a weirdo. And he's kind of close to my age, just a few years older. And then like 3 months later, somebody that I shared 25% of my DNA showed up. So I knew that he either had to be my grandfather, my uncle, or my half brother.
Okay.
So he was just a little bit too young to be my grandfather. He's only 24 years older than me. So that was limited. He had to be either my uncle or my half brother.
Right.
So what I did is I found him on LinkedIn first, right? And I looked at his, man, I hope he never watches this, but I looked at his, basically, I love me wall. You know what that is, right? The I love me wall. And that was his LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of information here. And from there, I was able to glean who his relatives were.
Right.
And I found out that I had 2 half sisters. So like the only way that I could eliminate whether or not he was my uncle or my half brother is I had to figure out if I was related to his mother's side of the family.
All right.
And so I found out who she was, who her parents were, and I tracked all of their descendants and found like 64 of them. And I didn't match with anyone who had taken a DNA test on their side. So I was reasonably certain that he was my half brother, but he was 24 years older than me. Yeah, that's not the craziest part. The craziest part is this: I have an 86-year-old half sister and a 22-year-old half brother. That's the craziest part. And there's like 11 of them. And I was raised in like a perfectly normal rural Texas family. And I just found out that like, this is like a hillbilly, weird nightmare in some ways.
Man, but you're half Korean, half Scots Irish, I imagine.
That's exactly right. Yeah. A little bit of Native American, a little bit of African American thrown in there too. So, which most people are finding out that.
How can you not just love America? I mean, I'll give you a story. I had an Indian guy, a nice doctor actually, and it became a client of mine. Wonderful guy. He's a big Christian guy. And long story short, he's from India, not American Indian, but India. And he came here. I'm trying to draw the blank on the story, but anyway, he was like about to die. He had some issue where he was about to die or something like that. And he was a doctor, and he was at some conference, and he went to a conference in Kansas City, and he met some lady from like Podunk, Kansas, some white as could be lady. Mm-hmm. And long story short, they ended up getting married, having children. They're in India now because his parents aren't in great shape. It's just, right. I can't. There's more to the story. I just can't remember. But he's not. He's fine now. And I'm just saying, freaking America, man. How can you love that?
America.
Damn. That's going back to what you said about, just that we'll get through this is America. I can agree more. Let me share just real quick about ancestry.com because I did that.
Yep.
And, let's put it this way. It's going to make me cry. I have 2 half sisters that I did not know. We kind of knew, Jason. And but it's always, say again.
You suspected or you knew yet?
We kind of knew, but my brother and me and my sister, we kind of knew, but it was always kind of because we're Catholic, right? And in the old days, Catholicism was like
no divorce. Yeah.
You go if you had a young woman get pregnant, young, you're 16, You should go away for 9 months and then magically come back.
Oh, that's actually where I was born. I was born in an unwed mother's home in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, but she was one of my sisters was born in unwed mother's home in Philadelphia, and the other one in Boston or something like that. Anyway, and it's interesting too because I had an email on from this lady. I said, "Dude, you're nuts. I don't want to talk to you." And then somehow she found me on Facebook, and I said, "Holy crap, she looks just like my cousin Katie." I said, I emailed her back, said, "I think we." Bob, and I love her to death now. And she's in Houston, as a matter of fact, and she's great. I love her. My other half sister is a little bit, but she's a Yankee from Boston, so she's people up in Northeast are a little bit colder. And that's not. I'm from Maine, so I get to say that. But the one in Houston is like freaking me. She's just hugging, loving, just yappy McGee, and I love her to death. And so it's funny that you said it's like pros and cons. I could not be happier knowing who my half sisters are, but I know my other half sister is kind of like, I'm not so sure, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like,
yeah.
But it's good and it's bad. But for me, I couldn't be happier. It's great. So
I know some people this would have ruined their life, is what I'm saying. Like be cautious, especially if you're adopted. You are adopted for a reason.
No, that's actually I'm glad you pointed that out because I'm not the adopted one, and these two are, and because that. I think there's definitely different take for the adopted girls. One is like, I don't know so much. I'm not saying ruin her life, but I'm sure she's kind of like, or the other one's great. So it could be a big deal if you know you're adopted for sure. And both of them did know they were adopted, kind of like you, Jason. So
I was calling so I had this one family that I'm related to named Galloway in Northern Kentucky. And the first two people that I called who spoke to me, most of them just hung up. At the end of the conversation, they asked me for money. So, but by that time though, I was already into the like 4 and 5 felony conviction part of the list. So all I wanted was information on the people that we were related to. But it was like I said, it's been quite hilarious and horrifying and all at the same time. And I can have a sense of humor about this, but I would urge anyone to watch this. If you're a sensitive person or you don't want to know bad things, then don't take the test. So
they ask you for money. That's the idea. Man, I can almost wonder why I have a sneaky suspicion given that section of the country and that they're
drug addicts.
Sure.
But luckily, as a financial planner, my superpower is saying no.
Yes.
So
that's what I tell people when it comes to financial planning. If you need someone to be the bad guy for your spouse, I can be the bad guy. Right. So let's talk about the small business, because you had mentioned, Jason, about with your jujitsu business. But just tell about the SBA. I don't even know what it's called. So go into that.
Okay, so there's a couple of different programs out there available for small businesses, and I can tell you that the rollout by that was an utter disaster. And there's going to be long-range, long-term effects from the PPP loans, which is called the Paycheck Protection Plan loans, and the EIDL loans, which is the Economic Injury Disaster loans. Basically, every small business out there, if they had to go through a long shutdown, this is what they're using to survive with, and it's adding to their debt load. And there's a couple of different concerns with it. Number one, a lot of businesses went under before they were able to secure these loans. Like I applied day one for the EIDL, which was it's been around for a while, but day one on March 16th, when my academy was shut down, I think by March 19th, I'd figured out that I applied for it, and I applied on March 19th. I didn't receive the loan proceeds until the beginning of June.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The PPP loan, we applied on April 3rd. We didn't receive those till the beginning of June either, right? These are all programs designed. The Paycheck Protection Program was basically designed to help keep the unemployment rate low, meaning that when you get the loan, there were a number of provisions when we first got it that required us to pay up to 75% of it out to payroll. That was reduced to 60%, and we could spend 40% on other things like operating expenses, rent, and all that.
Right.
And those loans are supposed to help small businesses. But I'm telling you, the people that couldn't hold on for 2 months or 3 months with no business, they're already gone. And I know that you made a video a couple of weeks ago saying that, you don't believe the unemployment number. Yeah. I am absolutely in that same boat. And I can tell you why the picture looks a little bit better than it actually is that there isn't a ton of demand out there. Look, there's plenty of good news in the economy too. I don't want you to think that this is all bad news. I just think that the recession is going to be deep and biting. It's going to be 1.5 to 2 years minimum before we're back to full employment, and that the stock market is completely divorced from reality at this point.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely divorced from reality. But with the requirements for the PPP loan, I have to pay my employees even though they're not working, right? And which is fine.
Real quick, you have to pay your employees with loan proceeds.
With loan proceeds, but that part is forgivable. The part that goes out to them as the 75% initially or the 60% that goes out to my employees is actually forgivable by the federal government. And there's only 2 employees for my company, right? And for one of the companies I have, there's only 2 employees. There's only one for the other company, right? So I'm not paying a lot, but I'm consulting for a lot of other small business owners that are going through this process as well. And some of them actually turned down the PPP loan because they didn't think it was going to be forgivable. Now, the interest rate is 1%. It's really kind of a grant if you follow all the rules. As of right now, and initially, you had to spend all the money in 8 weeks. You had to push it all out to your employees in 8 weeks. 75% of it had to go to payroll, only 25% to other expenses, which meant that, so the exact wording was this: 75% of the forgivable amount must be attributable to payroll expenses.
Right, okay.
Never define exactly what payroll expenses are, including all the other taxes and all that. But what it basically meant is that at some point that you're going to have to pay back some of it, and you couldn't get all of it to be forgivable. So all of those people now, we started receiving those funds, say end of May, beginning of June. Those people were taken off who accepted that those paychecks. They were taken off of unemployment.
Exactly. Yeah.
We paid them. Yep. Right. This is what it's supposed to be. So we don't know exactly how that is skewing unemployment numbers at this point. So once those funds start to run out, say 8, 10, 12 weeks from now, and they also lengthen the amount of time the Congress passed an exemption. They lengthen the amount of time we have to actually disperse the funds. But once those run out, that's when we're going to get a really accurate picture of what unemployment actually looks like.
Because those monies will be run out, and then you don't have any money to pay people to stay on payroll. Yep. You're not.
They'll go back on unemployment at that point.
Right, exactly. And because you might not have any, not just saying you, but if you're a small business, you might not have the revenue in which to bring it back anyway. You see what I'm saying?
And so the backup to that is the EIDL loan, which EIDL loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, is not forgivable under any circumstances.
Oh, it's not?
No, you have to pay it back. But the terms are pretty good. It's if you're a for-profit business, your interest rate is 3.75%, and you pay it back on a 30-year basis. So it's a lot like a mortgage.
Okay.
So some people are looking at this as a historical way for a small business to get loans, to have that, and to pay. Basically, it's cheap financing. But I'm telling you, this is
with no underwriting required, or minimum underwriting.
Virtually no underwriting required. They run a credit check on you. You get your the only indication. Oh, that's the other thing. The SBA communicated nothing with me. I had no idea that we were going to get anything whatsoever. The only indication that I was even in line to get an EIDL loan was that there was a credit check run on me. 3 days later, I got $2,000 in grant money for one of my businesses and $1,000 in grant money for the other business, right? And then no communication again for over a month. Nothing. I'd send emails and call.
Where do you?
I know, directly through the SBA. And here's the crazy thing: the SBA has a disaster relief phone line. And I called them up like 3 or 4 times and have conversations go nowhere. And finally, I asked them, like, do you guys even have the ability to tell me the status of my loan? And the level 2 SBA lady that was talking to, she's like, actually, that's the big secret. We don't. We're all working from home now. We can't access our computer systems. We're just supposed to tell you to go to this website and email us. So they weren't even making an attempt to tell us what our loan status was or anything. So I had no idea whether money was going to come or not. And I can guarantee you there are tens of thousands of companies that were probably in line for these EIDL funds, and they folded because they had no indication as to whether or not the funds were actually going to be available.
I mean, what happens if they fold on May 27th and then June 1st it shows up, and what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you fold? I mean,
Yeah, and so we have not been paying our full rent for the longest time. Literally, state of California on March 19th said you have to be closed. California is sort of opened up right now, but we're a close contact sport. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's grappling, it's joint locks and choking. This is what we do to each other. And they're like, oh no, you still have to be closed. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't mind being closed, right? I'd rather be open. I like to train. I like to fight. I want to do business. I'd rather be open. I don't mind being closed if that's what I'm supposed to do to help society. You can't tell me I'm a non-essential business. I can't be open while everyone else is open. Right? You can't tell me that I can't earn a living. So at this point, everyone's looking at suing the state of California and the county of San Diego because they've offered no compensation. You tell me to be closed. You just have to offer me compensation for that.
Well, it's an eminent domain. I mean, that's what I've been saying. It's like, this is an eminent domain. They're saying you can't do this with your business, and we're not going to give you any reward, or I'm saying
compensation.
It's crazy.
My issue is not with being closed. If the health department determines we need to be closed, and they're going to make us be closed, then they must pay our bills for
That's
us.
what I'm saying. It's like, it's a taking, man. And I'm sitting there thinking, all right, so they're saying you can't be open. I mean, even if you weren't a grappling firm, they're obviously you fall into the category non-essential, but essential firms can be open and still theoretically make money. And so it's complete. So who is the person determining this? Fauci? I mean, who says you can't be, but they can be? You see what I'm saying? Like who?
Yeah, and the state of California, oh man, they came out with this list of acceptable activities, and it was the most patronizing crap I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there was all kinds of things that were acceptable and unacceptable. I don't know why, but crabbing was acceptable, fishing was not. It's like you close the ocean and then you tell me when the ocean's back open that I can go crabbing, but I can't go fishing. Like, do you understand the distinction between the two? Like, I don't get it. So just.
Well, are you part? I mean, you said, people are thinking about suing to California. I mean, is there like, people in the business community?
Yeah, it's a lawsuit. So, we can't talk about that. So,
okay. But I mean, that is somebody's thinking about that and processing it. I'm saying
it's not just somebody. There's thousands of other industries that are going to do this. Don't think this is over for like hairdressers. Like the state of California caved, a day before the California Supreme Court was going to make a decision on whether or not they could open up. Gavin Newsom just caved and let them open up. But don't think that's over. They're still going to get sued because of that. You told thousands of businesses that they could not be open when all kinds of other things were open. All
right, so they don't have like whatever qualified immunity, or the state of California can be sued in this regard, and if they lose, they have to pay compensation.
We don't know.
Oh,
that's kind of the issue, and that's probably going to end up in the Supreme Court at some point. And this is why everyone went from 2 or 3 people suing at once, and now we're all coming together in large class action lawsuits, because it's probably going to be taken all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, someone says the dollar stores have been open since day one. They were never closed. It's just kind of funny. Why is the dollar? Look, I'm not saying the dollar store should be closed. I'm just saying, why are they open and you can't? It doesn't make sense. All right. So now you had the SBA.
Yep.
They didn't give you any guidance at all in terms of if your loan was we had no idea. Just one day the money just showed up.
Yeah, the money just showed up on my account one day. And look, I did a lot on faith. That's not how I operate, man. I don't do things without game planning what's going to happen out in the future. So I filled out all these applications. Information goes, who knows where, and I have no idea what is happening. In the meantime, more than half of our members decided to stop paying. I don't blame any of them for doing that. They lost their jobs, or their spouse lost their job, or it was just uncertainty, or they didn't want to pay for something they weren't going to be able to use. I understand all of it. I'm really grateful for the ones that continued to pay anything at all. Like literally, that's what kept our electric bills on. That's what kept all that stuff in the business. And that's why it's going to survive in the future. It has not as much to do with these small EIDL loans and the PPP loans that we got. It's the people who've continued to support us. But not every business is a membership business that develops around a community of really great people. If you're just like a regular Planet Fitness or 24-hour or something, you're not gonna. They didn't survive. 24-hour Fitness didn't survive. They declared bankruptcy. They're shutting down 180 different locations. That's going to allow them to trim the fat. But all these other small independent gyms, they're gone. There's not even.
Trim the fat. That also means trim the fat of jobs. I mean, there's
trim the fat of jobs.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
They don't just
And yeah, this has been the SBA program. And he said, I'm not sure they weren't equipped to do this. Right? I'm not calling them bad people. They weren't equipped to do this. Right.
Of course not.
Yeah. And no one, I mean, there were millions of people that applied at once where the EIDL loans have been around forever, but they never had the volume of applications that they did. But I'm not blaming them. It was just a giant mess from beginning to end and so much uncertainty that there's going to be a long train of jobs that were lost over the way this was handled. A really, really long train of jobs.
And they're not showing up in the
safe.
numbers now. That's your theory, is that these jobs will not be, they're not being shown yet as unemployed, but they will. And on top of that, here's my thing too, is when the unemployment numbers run, I mean, not the benefits, the extra $600 a week or whatever, when that stops in July, that's not going to have any effect on unemployment. I get that, but that's going to have another impact as well. You see, so basically what happens,
it's going to have an impact on consumer spending, that's for sure.
Big time. Well, and then even worse, so you keep your 2 employees for PPL and EIDL, and then let's just say you still go out of business in July, then they go on unemployment. That extra $600 a week they don't get that then. The new unemployment.
They don't, but I'm firmly convinced that the $600 a week will not be $600 a week, but there's still going to be an enhanced benefit on that. Congress has basically shelved part 2 of the CARES Act, what they call the HEROES Act, until July, until after they come back from recess. Which, why the hell are they going on recess? We have civil strife right now and a pandemic, and they're taking a 2-week recess. So I'll be voting against every incumbent in the state of California. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I'm voting against you. I'll be voting. Basically, I'm voting against well, I've never voted for anyone. I only vote against people.
Yeah.
So, which I think should be the American way.
Yeah.
And if you're enthusiastic about a politician, then I think that's wrong in a lot of ways. We should always hold their feet to the fire. We should always hold them accountable for everything they do and say.
You sound very libertarian, Jason. Are you like a libertarian? And I say anarchist in the correct way, not a commie anarchist, but more of a
definitely more of a libertarian in a lot of ways. It's really odd. My friends in Texas think they're conservative,
right?
And they always call me a liberal,
right?
And everyone here in California calls me a raging conservative,
right?
Because I have a lot of guns or something. I don't know. And but it's kind of weird. I'm used to having rather unsympathetic political views and unsympathetic ideological views. I'm okay with people not agreeing with me because no one ever does.
Right.
It's
interesting because my thing at the end of the day is all the damn politicians. So I mean, it's all. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. We are in a uniparty. You know what I'm saying? It all flows one direction through.
They're not that different. It's all one party in the Hamptons. Basically, you and I aren't invited. There's no Democrat party, no Republican party. It's just a party of wealthy and powerful people.
And wealthy and powerful lawyers. That's what it is with the stupid lobbyists. And it's weird how so many people get divided between the red and blue. Look, I fall for it. I mean, I came from a political family of hippies, and but I get it. But at the end of the day, once you kind of go down the road, you're like, wait a second. Is my congressman, well, now it's a Democrat, the lady before her, Karen Handel, is she really that much different from the lady who's a Democrat in there now? And the answer is no. They're all getting rich off this. All right, so let me ask you a question. All right, so now unemployment will go up relative, because there is no way these numbers make sense. I'm actually shocked how people are like, look, it's not as bad. I said, something wasn't right then. Either there wasn't 40 million jobs lost, or there's these two numbers, they're mutually exclusive. You see,
actually, so there's 2 things going on there. All right. So as a business owner, even though I had my own business, as long as I could prove in California that one of my businesses suffered, then I could apply for unemployment. Now, you only get the minimum, which is the $167 a month plus the $600. I ended up not applying for it, but you get the $167 a month plus the $600 a month, $167 a week.
Okay.
Plus the $600 a week in the enhanced unemployment benefits.
Wait, 167 a week?
Yeah, from the state of California. That's the minimum that they'll give you for unemployment.
Oh, the minimum. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're a business owner, right, and your business suffered because of the pandemic, then you could apply as well. There were a few extra hoops that you had to jump through, but I actually watched someone go through the process, watch them get their check, So they get $767 a week until the end of July, and then they go to $167 a week. But but in the past, they were not eligible to apply for unemployment at all.
Because there's the business owner.
So something like, I think 69% of companies in the United States are single member companies, right? They have no employees, just one guy. So I think a lot of unemployment, people who applied for unemployment were those people as well. They still have their companies. They just weren't doing business for a while.
But I don't pay unemployment. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I do. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't pay unemployment, you know, I mean, I know I pay FICA on both sides. I get that, but I don't pay unemployment. So I mean, a lot
of states open this up as a special benefit because of the pandemic. So this is the first time that they would have done this. Now, I don't know how, and I don't think anybody knows how many of these first-time, applicants for unemployment were actually small business owners who were doing no business whatsoever.
And unemployment is through the state, not the federal government.
Through the state, not the federal government. Yeah.
All right. So, all right, let's just go back real quick. Let's just say 157 plus 600. I mean, I know that's the minimum. Yeah, that's still not that. I mean, I get,
it's still not bad if you think about it. I mean, that's almost $30,000 a year in benefits, or more than,
You have to pay tax on that?
You have to pay taxes on it. Yes, it's taxable income.
There's FICA tax on that too? Do you know?
No, there's no self-employment tax on that. You're just going to pay your regular income taxes plus your Social Security. You have to pay all of that. But if you're self-employed, you don't have to pay. Like, you pay both halves of the self-employment tax.
Yeah, but no one wants to. I mean, I don't want to say no one, but hell, 30,000 a year. If you live in your neck of the woods, they ain't gonna get the job done. You know,
no, it's nothing. It's nothing. So it's but I mean, that's kind of the issue. Is like, I have a cousin who lives in rural Alabama, and I was thinking about him, that if he were to lose his job, that getting the $600 per week plus his benefit is probably pretty close to what he would
get out there. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's contingent on where you live for sure.
Right.
All right. So you also own some rentals, Section 8, and some military housing. So talk to us about that, because that is something where you have you're somewhat optimistic about.
I'm very optimistic about it, and that actually I didn't plan that. That happened by accident. A couple of years ago, almost 6 years ago, it just so happened that 3 out of my 4 rental properties were empty at the same time. And so, like, I wasn't desperate to get people in there, but I'm nervous. I don't like to see my accounts go tick, 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 tick down. I want them to go up and up and up. And 2 people approached me at the same time who I just got a good feeling from when I met them. I ran credit reports on them. They had good credit. And here's the thing. Don't get a master's degree in any social science.
Yeah.
Both of my Section 8 renters have master's degrees in social work.
Really?
Yes. And the reason they are Section 8 renters is because they have master's degrees in social work or social science, and they have tons of student debt. And that is literally the reason. They took out a lot of loans to get master's degrees, and you don't get much in the way of a raise. It's not enough to pay for your master's. It's not enough to pay for the student debt. And it's like, I'm like, look, she's a smart lady. She's very nice. Both of them are. They're just happen to be bad at math. So, and this is the reason why they're stuck in this debt trap now. And they're great people. They just happen to not make a lot of money. And I realize that the Section 8 program has a bad reputation in a lot of places where people have rentals. I have been doing it going on 7 years now, 6-7 years, and it's been absolutely wonderful. My experience has been absolutely wonderful. They're great people. They're great renters. I have nothing bad to say about them whatsoever. Not in the slightest. The greatest benefit of this is, and this is the crazy part, the greatest benefit of this is when everything happened, I know that I'm getting 2/3 of my rent paid by the housing commission here in San Diego. Right? And I figured they would both lose their jobs or have reduced hours, and they wouldn't be able to pay me. And I preemptively called them and said, look, this is okay. I'm not going to be a jerk about this. You pay me what you can. Right. And don't worry about the rest. I'm not going to make you pay. If you pay nothing, that's fine. And I'm not going to ask you to pay anymore. Right? You have been such a great renter for 6 years. If you have a problem, I'm here to help you out.
Right.
They both pay me every dime they owe me. Every dime. With no interruption whatsoever. Right? No interruption whatsoever. 2 military families that I have, different story. So and it was and like I said, this is this is something that I was not really expecting. I expected them to have problems, right? So if you have been ever worried about going on the Section 8 program because you think maybe these people are bad, they are not bad people. They just don't earn that much money.
So in the Section 8, real quick, the government sends the check automatically to you for 2/3?
Yeah, direct deposit to me. And it's for about 2/3
you don't have
of
to
the
go
money.
knock on the door to get
No.
that 2/3 of the money from the tenant.
Well, I don't have to do that for the tenant either. The tenant pays me 1/3 and they both just Venmo me or Zelle me the
Okay. Well, what I'm
the
saying
rest.
is
So,
you
yeah.
don't have to chase down the 2/3 though. That's automatic.
No, you never
Okay.
do. And the benefit is this is that the rents are usually matched to whatever the market is. But once the renter is in there, you generally can't raise the rent as fast as you could on some other properties, but you have a stable renter,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things is these ladies both work in social work,
Yeah.
so they have stable jobs. Their financial situation, if as long as they stay in social work, will not improve that much. So
Yeah.
they'd probably be there for a very, very long time. And so having a renter in there for a long time, look, if I raise the rent $200 a month, and it takes me 2 years to make that up, right? So there's a huge benefit to having just a renter stay there for a very long time,
Yeah, absolutely.
even if you're not able to keep up with the market entirely. And the increased safety factor because of the pandemic has been absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. It's taken a load off of me.
Someone says you're a unicorn with your Section 8 experience, and I don't agree with that. I've actually had some other people have had Section 8 housing, the same thing that they said. I guarantee they're freaking scumbags in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee that. But I've had other people who I've dealt with in my career as a financial planner who have had large Section 8 housing that did just fine. You know, and then someone says, "Hey, the taxpayers are supporting these people." I completely agree. But from the not the renter, the landlord's perspective, the landlord's got an incentive now to get these people in there because they get essentially an annuity, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And it's I don't know. I do think there's some misconceptions. And again, just like everything, there's misconceptions. There's always stories on every single side. You know what I'm saying? But I've had.
I don't think people realize too here in Southern California just how high rents are.
Oh yeah.
And you don't get paid for, if you live in San Diego, you don't get paid more to live here. That's the thing that people really don't understand. Our income levels are not really that much higher than say like San Antonio, Texas or Houston or something like that. A social worker here makes $40,000 a year. A social worker in Houston makes $40,000 a year.
What I'd say, Jason, is what friggin' infuriates me isn't the Section 8, is the friggin' university system, which is totally corrupt, totally taking money from the back of the friggin' taxpayer to freaking finance their insane Marxist crap with all these stupid administrators.
$40,000 to $60,000 a year for a master's degree in social work.
It's freaking insane. And they're only gonna make $40,000 a year as income for 30 years. Well, like you said, hardly ever raise and always be on the chopping block and never be able to pay it off. Also, they can fund some freaking admins, not like administrative assistants, but administrators who aren't teaching, who aren't doing anything, but they're just pushing paper from side to side. It's the biggest corrupt entity there possibly is, and it friggin' ticks me off because what's going to happen? Because I can kind of see in the comments, some people are going to get mad at the Section 8, some people are going to get mad at the Section 8 landlords, some people get mad at the Section 8 tenants, and I'm like, that's not the problem. The problem is the freaking universities because
there's a lot of problems here in California. San Diego doesn't have high rent because of the nice weather. And look, I'm going to tell you, it only rains 12 days a year here. I mean, the weather is really freaking fantastic. The reason rents are so high here is because this town is awash in government money.
Yes.
The government workers that work here get locality pay, which is about 15% higher. Your E5s, BAH with dependents, which is what like people who are on the 9/11 GI Bill here, it's like $26.50 a month. So they get $26.50 a month tax free. If you just your wife and your child, $26.50 a month tax free, that's push rents up. And so
exactly.
basically, if you look at about $30,000 a year just to rent a house, you basically pushed anyone who makes $15 an hour into living in, somebody's basement or sharing a room with 3 other people.
Or living way the hell out there.
Or living way the hell, well, even way the hell out there. It's pretty, you'd be surprised. Like one of my properties is pretty far out there. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath place, and I still charge $2,000 a month for it because I can.
And how far out is it?
It's from town center. It's about 18, 19 miles away, which San Diego is not that large of a town. So it's out in the country.
I had a lady, she moved into Missouri, but she was working in Orange County and lived, what they call it, and I don't know where it was, but inside, not in Orange County, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's Orange County or someplace, I can't remember. But anyway, her commute, Jason, was 2 hours a day on a good day, each way.
That's a good day though. Yeah. If
Yeah,
she
good
lived
day.
if she lived like in Temecula or something like that and commuted to Orange County. So
Yeah,
people live in Temecula, which is an hour and a half away, and then they commute down here to San Diego to work at Spaywar or something like that, or one of the insurance companies here. And
she was telling me that she was still paying. I mean, I can't remember. But I was like, holy! I said. So she said, "Do you think I can move to Missouri?" Or I can't remember. And I said, "Hell yeah!" Because she's only gonna make $15 an hour in Missouri. I said, "But your freaking housing costs and your commute, you're gonna literally save your life." I was nuts. Do you own your own house, or you got an apartment, or do you have kids?
So I own my own house here. I actually, we finished paying it off like last November.
Man.
I'm 45, almost 46 year old. We finished paying it off last November.
All right, so let me ask you, because I know what your expenses are. I'm not gonna say it, but you told me. So people say you have to make 100,000 a year to live in America, or whatever, 50,000.
Not in Southern California, you don't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Jason's a perfect example of that. You don't have to make that kind of money, because I won't share. But he told me.
Actually, I don't mind if you share. In fact, let me dig up my place right
here. Yeah, right. I don't understand. If you make $12 an hour, how do you choose to live in the Bay Area or San Diego? I don't know how people can do that.
Okay, so my budget that's uncovered by rents, right? Meaning what I have to go out and earn every month is $3,025. Right? That's it. $3,025. That covers and half of that is medical insurance and property taxes. Right? And that is it. And we just have a low consumption lifestyle.
Did you say you're married?
I'm married.
Okay.
We simply don't have the desires that a lot of people do. We make all of our meals at home. Number one, my wife I'm a pretty good cook. Pretty good. My wife's amazing. In fact, when I met her, she was actually enrolled in 2 different culinary schools at the same time. Okay. And I mean, she's absolutely amazing. And she's also the only reason I don't
in California.
Here in California. Okay. She's actually from Tokyo.
Oh, really?
And so we have a huge mixture of Southern and Japanese food, and, because I grew up in Texas and all that. And, low consumption lifestyle. I don't need to buy anything. I don't like objects. Don't give me any pleasure. Experiences do. All of my hobbies, like I own a company that is one of my hobbies, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the other one's surfing and boat building. Boat building is the only thing I spend money on, really.
You say boat building?
Yes, boat building.
Real life boats? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm building a 18-foot Carolina dory right now, and as soon as I'm finished with that, I'm going to build a 26-foot Tolman skiff. So,
what are you doing? You sell them or something like that?
Fish in it for a while and then sell it.
Really?
Yeah.
How the hell do you learn how to do that? I mean,
it's actually not that hard. With the invention of epoxy, like you don't need precision cuts anymore. As long as you can't throw a cat through the seam, you can literally just fill it with epoxy and filler, and then glass over it, and it's stronger than the wood. So it's a epoxy and wood sandwich, and it's actually far stronger than and lighter than production made fiberglass boats, and it's just fun to do, and it's enormously satisfying. I really like it. So.
All right, so you're 46, you're married, You got kids, you said, or no?
We have 2 kids.
Are they still at home?
They're still at home. They are 10 and 12. And what terrifies me is paying for college.
Yes. Well, I mean, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah. The problem is in terms of, and this is one of my concerns with college admissions too. I don't know if you saw that case that went on with like Harvard, where the Asian American, they sued.
I did. It's nice.
Basically, the Supreme Court said it's perfectly okay to discriminate against Asian people.
Yeah. And whites too.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay, and that was kind of one of the things I'm concerned with. There aren't really a lot of scholarship options, like avenues for that. And a lot of people don't realize this, that, having good grades, extracurricular activities, playing violin or whatever, and doing 1 or 2 sports, if you're an Asian American student, that does not make you special.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make you special at all. So
They
the reality is I'm
expect that
probably
if
going to
you're
have to
Asian.
pay for it. I'm sorry?
They expect that if you're Asian.
Yeah, I'm basically going to have to pay for college out of pocket, which is something that, I paid it out of pocket, but let's be honest, when I went to college, basically it was 2 bales of corn and a potato and 5 cents. That's what college cost. I think I was telling my wife that I spent $8,800 a year for the first time I went to college for everything. I'm talking living expenses, tuition, rent, food, all that stuff. And the second time when I went back to college to go to UCSD, which was a great experience, University of California, San Diego, where I got my archaeology degree. That was a wonderful experience, but it cost me $33,000 a year.
Ugh.
Right, between tuition and living expenses. So I'm figuring my kids are going to cost a minimum $60,000, $70,000 a year at this point.
Well, that's
Even
the
at the state
problem,
school.
man, because what has changed? Has anything changed to make it that much more valuable now than what it was?
No. But I think a lot of the people that object to doing something about student loan debt, they don't understand how expensive college is. They don't understand how this was sold to a generation of people as the answer.
Yep.
As the answer. And yet, I know welders that make $90,000 a year. I know plumbers that make $90,000 a year in rural Texas who live like kings. Yep. And yet everyone is encouraged to go to college. Like, I paid for my archaeology degree out of pocket, knowing full well that I might not ever use it. Yeah. And that I'm never going to make a lot of money with it anyway. Like, as what's called a CRM archaeologist with a master's degree, you're probably making $45,000 a year, which is poverty in California. It really is. And it's not wealthy anywhere in the nation, but it's poverty here in California. If you are going to college, you have kids going to college, and I've told my kids this: if you want to major in math, you want to major in a science, physics, or medicine, biology, I will gladly pay for it. If you want to major in art, good luck. I'm not paying for it.
Or history, nope.
Yep. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I will fully support you emotionally if you want to go study history. I love history. I have a degree in archaeology, completely useless. But I'm not going to pay for it. I will pay for something that's practical.
$1,000 a year. I just got a text. Your kids just texted, say both want to become master's degrees in social work. They want you to pay for it.
Great. Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
Right, man. We had thought about moving back to Texas and to at least take advantage of the Texas state schools. You know what I'm saying? Texas is just too hot for me, man. I can't do it. In Georgia, we got, my oldest goes to Georgia Tech, and she's in computer science.
Georgia's hot too. I don't understand that. It's hot and humid as well. Georgia is.
But trust me, I know.
Yes.
I'm from Maine, man. I'm like, whoo, this is because the summer's here. And I'm like, man, it wears me. It's weird. As I get older, it wears me out more. And it's when I was in the Army, it's down in Georgia all the time. And I didn't like it, but I was able to deal with it. But as I get older, I'm out in the garden all the time. I'm always in the backyard. And it just wears me out. And I'm sitting there telling my wife, said, man, the humidity and the heat is just killing me. But anyway, so she wants to go back to Texas. I said, I can't. And I said, it's too hot for me. I was talking to a lady a couple yesterday, and I said, are y'all going to get, I think they're in Ohio or something like that. I said, y'all going to get the hell out of there? And the husband's like, I want to move south. And the wife's like, hell no, it's too hot for me. And she was talking about freaking Virginia. She goes, it's too hot there. I was like, huh? I said, what? She wants to move to Minnesota. I said, well, hell, if you wait a couple of weeks, you'll be able to buy prices cheap in Minneapolis.
I'm telling you, like, just live in Minnesota, own an RV too, and spend your winters down in Arizona like everyone else from Minnesota does.
This is my assistant Pablo right here, Jason. I'm sure you've seen him before.
I've watched a lot of your videos. I know Pablo really well.
Let me real quick. I want to share the screen because I'll let you go here because he's getting a little bit cranky. But I want to. This is Jason's friends. Jason's a good guy. We didn't really know each other that well at USAA. But remember Amar Shah, everybody who I've interviewed before on this channel a number of times. He reintroduced me to Jason, and I'm a big fan. Jason's good. He's one of the good guys. Here's his YouTube channel. He's got 299 subscribers. subscribe. He's got some. He just start. How long ago did you start your channel?
I really started in earnest in January, and I will admit that I got discouraged around the beginning of March, and I had a conversation with you.
Yep.
I had a conversation with you that inspired me to get back on the horse. I took like a 2-week break. I got back on the horse, started making videos, and the channel started growing. And you were my inspiration.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, I heard this, the first couple months, no one's going to know who you are. Or I remember the first comment I got, I was like, holy crap, I got a comment. It's crazy. And the first video I remember I did, I got over 100 views. I was like, whoa. And I thought that was for me.
Oh man, I got excited. One video over 100 views. It was amazing. And yeah.
Well, I want to point out that you got this video on your SBA EIDL funds, which no one else is talking about, my friends.
Right.
Or at least no one else is talking. Jason's actually done it. So if you're a small business or know people or small business, I don't know the first thing about it. I just don't. But Jason not only knows about it, via reading the paper, watching the Meet Kevin guy. Jason's actually done the thing, and the reason I talk about Meet Kevin because he's doing all this stuff on stimulus checks, and it seems like there's a lot of people. It seems like YouTube is big on pushing the stimulus check videos out. I don't understand it, but anyway.
And some people do one every single day. Like I tried to send just regular thing on stock market and financial planning and all that. If you look, everyone's interested in the stimulus stuff, and very few people are interested in actual financial planning. So
weird. And everyone's, it's just odd. But anyway, I would highly recommend you watch this video on this one. Now he's got all kind of like, here's his PPP one, but I think that'd be a good thing for people if they just subscribe. Remember, once you hit, and for anyone who's budding YouTuber, once you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can get money from YouTube. As long as they keep you on the platform. And given that, Joe Biden spent like a drunken sailor, apparently my videos, apparently the people who donate to Joe Biden are actually donating to me. So I'll take it. Keep donating to Biden because he's all over my YouTube. I don't have anything to do with the ads. You won't either, Jason. I mean, literally YouTube puts the ads up, whoever wants to pay them. And I have no clue when, where, or how they get on there. But definitely subscribe to his channel, my friends. All right, let's just real quick. Let's just see any, hold on a second, Jason. I want to, where did I go here? Oops, hold on a second. I gotta go here. I want to go here. What's his YouTube channel, Marie? It was Fighting Words Financial. I'll put a link in the show notes when we're done here.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, man.
So you've been my inspiration to do this. You really have.
Hey, real quick, Ernest, good question. This is a good one to end on. What do you think about more and more folks retiring overseas? What do you think about that in terms of, I mean, because we hear all the time, that we can't afford to, and you're obviously.
How much time do you have, Josh? And I'm going to tell you, I have a pretty unique perspective on this as well. Yeah. I have unique perspectives everywhere, being adopted by a white family, even though I'm not white, being married to a foreigner. But here's the big perspective change here. My kids and my wife are insured in Japan, right? Medical insurance.
Health insurance.
Health insurance. So I pay $14,000 a year for health insurance here for my family.
Okay.
We're out of pocket through the exchange. My copays are $75 a month or $75 per visit. And, my out of pocket maximum for the family is about $30,000 a year. So if anything happens, right, I'm paying $30,000 a year plus my $14,000 in right. So I mean, literally $44,000 a year in medical expenses if we have 2 major medical events.
Right.
My wife had knee replacement surgery a couple of years ago in Japan. Instead of being sent home, she's actually had it twice. She had a knee surgery here in the U.S. and then she had one in Japan. So we had experience from both perspectives. Right here, she was sent home after a day, had complications, had to go back to the hospital. It costs us a lot of money. In Japan, we went to the hospital. We've been paying our was it $1,700 a year for insurance there, right? Plus a 20% hard copay. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of money, right? We paid about $2,000 for her to stay in the hospital for 8 days.
Oh,
yeah. So I had no idea how bad our medical system was until I went and I lived in France and I lived in Belgium, and then we have all this experience now with the Japanese medical program. But here's the thing. The Japanese medical program does not look that different than Obamacare. It really doesn't. These are all private companies that compete for your business. They're all set up as sort of like not for-profits. They're not supposed to make a ton of money. But all of the services, the prices that you're allowed, the range of prices you're allowed to charge for a service are all pre-negotiated by the government, right? So they're not supposed to make a ton of money. Doctors make a little bit less, but there's a lot less administration. And there's a level of professionalism. I'm not saying there's not a level of professionalism with doctors and nurses here in the US, because there certainly is, but there's a level of professionalism you see in Japan, from the person who cleans the room to the person who checks you in, the person who we just don't have here. And I think that retiring overseas, particularly in places that have really good medical systems, could be a really good idea. Like a few countries that you don't think have great medical care really do, like Costa Rica has universal health care, but they have a secondary like private system you can buy into as well, where they have sort of higher quality doctors, better facilities, that sort of thing. It still ends up being cheaper than here in the United States.
The same in Mexico.
I live 8 miles from the border, right? I live 8 miles from the border. I know tons of people, especially go to get dental work in Mexico. I hear American dentists complain about the quality of dental work there. But you go to a dentist here in Southern California, and it's a lot like going to used car salesman. They always try and sell you something that is not covered. Yeah. You go to the dentist in Mexico, and the only thing you're worried about is how long it's going to take you to get back across the border.
So in Japan, it is $2,000 for 8 days.
8 days.
Where they observed her to make sure she didn't have to come back, a week later. Like, now, when you say it's like Obamacare, but you are on the Obamacare exchange, so
I am.
But it's not like Obamacare in terms of the pricing. I mean,
so it's not like Obamacare in terms of the pricing. So there is a degree of government support there,
right?
And there is a much harder copay. Like you have a 20% copay on everything.
Okay.
It's the pre-negotiation of the price of, this is what I suspect. I don't know this for a fact.
Right.
And there's two different levels there too. Like there's actually the free level of government service. We have the private level, right? Where it's basically the not-for-profit companies there. And they have design competition and all the prefectures and all the regions there. So everyone's supposed to compete for these dollars. But it's really the pre-negotiation of all the services. If you get a cut, what you're going to pay, by centimeter, how much you're going to pay to
everybody, right on an advance.
Right on there, yeah. And that's the real power of that. That Trump tried to pass something like that where you had to be, where everything had to be transparent. But there was a guy who just recovered from coronavirus in Washington. He got a bill for $1.2 million. And everyone's like, "Oh, his insurance
dropped an F-bomb, man. I almost cussed for the first time ever on my channel. That's just it's just insane.
It's no, but people are like, oh well, insurance is going to cover that. Well, let me tell you something. If he gets his insurance off the exchange like I do, then it's not going to cover all of it. You would still owe $200,000 on that because I have a lifetime $1 million maximum on my policy. After we spend $1 million, they kick us off and we have no insurance. So literally, he just recovered from coronavirus. Even if he had insurance through the exchange, he'd still be $200,000 in debt. He'd declare bankruptcy
because he has a $1 million out of pocket.
Nowhere else in the Western world, and I don't think it's racist to call it the Western world or the advanced world or the first world or whatever. I'm tired of people like criticizing me for saying that. Nowhere else in the Western world or developed world do people go bankrupt because of medical bills. They have a system that takes care of them one way or the other. I know.
Well, you
and I might disagree on this, but it's anecdotal, of course, but I have actual experience with medical systems in Israel, France, Belgium, and Japan.
Oh no, Jason, I'm 100%. The Medicare Advantage is exactly that. It's private companies. Right. They know exactly what their profit margins are going to be. Right. They know everybody knows exactly what the price is going to be. Medicare Advantage is the offset to a Medicare supplement. And everybody knows now the drawbacks when it comes to Part D, but just instead of Part D, the prescription drugs, exactly what it's going to be. And the insurance companies know exactly how much they're going to pay out and exactly how much they're going to get and what their profit is going to be. And yet the interesting thing is, just real quick, the interesting thing is, well, the insurance companies want to make a profit. Yeah. And that's why they're all competing, because they still make huge profits, not on Jason, but on Jason and everybody else in that group. They make 30 cents on each guy, so they have an incentive to keep you in the program. And trust me, the Medicare Advantage companies are still making money. You see,
they're still making money, but they're making money on the portions of the plan they can make money on. Let's be honest, Medicare wouldn't exist if that was an actual insurable risk.
Yeah,
Right? That's the reason, because like there's no, you can't be an insurance company and insure people over 65, because it's not that they may get sick, they will get sick.
Right, exactly. Right.
It's not an insurable risk. I'm thinking if you look at further down the age line, I would suspect that in reality, there's a lot more, the age of where people, it's no longer an insurable risk is probably a lot lower than 65. And I think that I would probably be in favor of a Medicare for all, but starting at a younger age, maybe at 55 or something like that. I think it would solve a ton of problems, especially people approaching retirement who go to have medical issues and then end up bankrupt and then they can't retire, right? Or they retire and all they have to live on is Social Security.
But I'm telling you, I do not like Nancy Pelosi. But she said, I always look back on this, I said, you guys should have freaking ran with it. She said, if we can separate health insurance from your employer, you can then go and do whatever the hell you want. If you're going to be a creative person, if you want to freaking, do it. And I said, that's the argument, Nancy. The argument isn't that we got to make it fair and just. The argument, because frankly, I care about me and my family. You see what I'm saying? Right. And I get fair and just. That is not my primary concern. My primary concern is not spending $2,500 a month on health insurance. So,
my premiums alone are $1,280 a month, right? That's my premiums alone, and that's without premiums. Exactly. That's my premium, $1,280 a month. How many people in California cannot go out and start a business because they can't afford $1,280 a month in medical insurance? This is crippling capitalism. That's my big thing. It's crippling capitalism by linking this to employment and saying it's basically making people employees instead of self-employed.
And making them indentured servants, so they have to appeal to the demands to keep their job to say yes, they have to have health insurance.
People say when I'm in favor of universal health insurance, and they're always like, "You're a liberal, you're a communist." I'm like, "No, man, I'm firmly petit bourgeoisie. Like I own rental properties, I own a couple of companies. I haven't worked for anyone for years now. I'm definitely a capitalist. I love capitalism." And here's the thing: the way we do our medical system is crippling capitalism.
I completely agree. 100% agree with that. I say at the end of the day, you're tied to your employer, which is the antithesis of capitalism and entrepreneurship. It's the absolute worst thing now because corporations control everybody, and you got to go like this, like freaking lemmings, to keep your job so you can keep your health insurance.
Oh yeah, you and I have both been through that. So
exactly, and
we haven't even gotten to talk about how corrupt the financial industry is, which is I wanted to talk about today. But we can do that next time.
All right, brother. Well, we'll get you on a regular basis. Again, don't forget it's Jason's podcast or YouTube channel is Fighting Words Financial. We've had a number of people just subscribe. Just go and subscribe. Support the guy. He's a good guy. I don't care what they say.
Thank you. One of these days, when I have a bigger audience, I'd like to have you on my channel too.
Right on,
and feel free to disagree with me all you want. That would be awesome. So
that's all good, Jason. All right, I'm going to go take my little assistant out for his poop. So we'll see you later, man. Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you guys on Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much. I'll be there.
Right on.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Jason.